pleased if we could have a moment of silence. Please pick your emergency because we've got enough. Thank you. Thinking about Colin Powell, ladies and gentlemen, when I was in the military, I was way down below him, but I did serve time. He was the commander. All right, let's be approaching.
Okay. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Agenda adoption, I suggest we move item 9 and let it come item 6, and then make 6B. Any thoughts? Any other changes? Okay, Chair, entertain a motion to adopt. All those in favor, aye. Opposed likewise, motion carries. Consent agenda, any corrections, discussion? Chair will entertain a motion to adopt. All in favor, aye. All opposed likewise, motion carries. Now, item 6A will become public hearing sales highway text amendments.
So as you're aware, we've been approached about a cell tower possibly in Shrine. What we have found after looking at it was our ordinances were outdated. So in that process, regardless of cell phone or not, we had to update the ordinances. Tim has went through and prepared these with William, and we can let him go over that. Just as a reminder, we have no application currently for a cell phone tower. But we did at your request do the public hearing and the information session to get input before.
And also the public hearing is required by law when you're considering ordinance changes. So,
Okay, and now this is going to become a public hearing.
yeah, you're not open public hearing.
Okay, and I will officially open a public hearing. We need to make some presentations and data before they respond, so at least they'll have some more working knowledge.
Okay. You want me to handle it? Tim?
Yeah, sure.
You can chime in or I may ask you to.
Sure.
So in light of the fact that there may be a cell phone tower application coming in, Tim and I both were looking at the ordinance just to refresh ourselves on the application and approval process. And I think Tim actually contacted me and said that the ordinance appeared to be a little confusing as to who does what. Right now, it's a two-part process whereby the planning board considers the application and goes through and makes sure that all the things are shown on the plans that are required to be on there and so forth. But in the ordinance, it created it had a requirement that plan director advertised, and it provided for conditions to be placed on permits if the planning board thought it was a good idea. In other words, it sounded a lot like a special use permit process, but it didn't call it that. And under your ordinance, the Board of Adjustment does the special use permit. So it was almost like it was set up to almost be a special use permit, but not really. So it was kind of a gray to us. Because Tim issues the permit, but he doesn't do it until after the planning board tells him it's okay. So that concerned me because I've never seen a process that was set up quite like that. And especially in light of 160A, 160D, the new planning legislation that applies statewide, that defines what types of permits are recognized under state law. I didn't see anything in that legislation that looked like what Tryon had set up for cell towers. So what we did is prepare a proposed amendment that makes it clear that it's the Board of Adjustment, which, by the way, is the same group of people. They'd just be sitting as a Board of Adjustment, which is a quasi-judicial board as opposed to a planning board. So it makes it clear that it's a special use permit, but like all other special use permits are done in Tryon. And there's a list of things under section 4.5 that you have to show to qualify for any special use permit. And then you have all the other requirements, special things specific to cell towers. So basically, all it does is declares that to get tower approval, you have to have a special use permit, which is a little deeper dive, a little more intense review than the way it was set up. And it makes a few other changes that are really non-substantive, but just to make this line up better with 160D, the new legislation that applies statewide for zoning ordinances. And I can't go through with all of them, but all the changes are in the first 2 pages, or 3 pages. All the requirements that have to be shown on the plans, fall zones and, guide wire stuff and all this other, none of that changed. So it's all the same technical criteria has to be on the plans. It's just the Board of Adjustment that will issue or not issue the permit, consider the application as opposed to the planning board.
Okay. The reason you're here tonight, folks, is after being confused by this, I thought it's best to advertise and let the public have some input too. So that's how we got where we are.
Right. Now, there will be another, once an application, if and when an application for a tower is received, whether or not you make these changes to the ordinance, which I highly recommend you make these changes, but there'll be another announcement probably of a hearing. So, and so that specific application can be looked at. So tonight, the action the board is actually taking is consideration of these ordinance amendments, which again just kind of cleans up the process and clarifies that it's a special use permit level of review. Tim, did I cover it all?
Yeah.
Okay. And before we say or ask anything, ladies and gentlemen, since this is technically quasi-judicial,
No, this one's not. This is
they don't have to
legislative.
be sworn in tonight.
Nobody has to be sworn in.
Okay.
If they want to speak at a consideration of an actual permit application, then they would be sworn in.
Okay.
Has someone in particular applied for a permit?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am. What it done is I started when the phone service started being lousy. What can we do? How can we improve this?
Yeah.
And people in this office that I asked started contacting people, who can you call? What can we do? And that's how we ended up where I am now.
There they are.
One thing I did forget, clear claim notice.
New supervisor, that worked.
That's somebody calling to apply. Is there any progress on improvement in Verizon?
My belief is if this cell tower was put up and it's put up by Verizon, we will improve. If not, I'm a Verizon customer and many of the people in here I recommend we all leave Verizon.
I'm leaving.
I mean, that's it, just as simple as I can say. If I'm gonna pay them out, I'm paying, I want service. If I'm not getting service, I'm going somewhere else. This is their chance if it gets that far.
That's Verizon call.
I agree.
I would like to add that in our,
Button on the side.
I've hit every button here. I did airplane mode and it rang again.
I do want to add that in our ordinances, the tower provision for building it, building it has to allow for 2 more towers for other providers to put on, not towers, I should say, but places on the tower to add to for other providers of cell phone service.
We
Okay.
have not more providers.
Yes, so not just Verizon, but Verizon could rent part of their tower out to 2 other providers.
Good.
That's mandatory on their.
Flyers can just offer that.
She's got a reply.
To answer your question,
Yes, sir.
I didn't answer his, but
Yeah, well, that was Verizon.
what was funny is I pushed airplane mode and it rang again. Good quality. Anyone else? Yes, sir. Oh, by the way, folks, when you do, please identify yourself for our record. Let's see, you were,
Yeah. I'm Al Converse, 321 Laurel Way, Triton. And we are under the understanding that if somebody does make an application for a cell tower, the town has already picked a location of up near the water plant. Is that true?
the area that it can be is in that area is where we've been told it will most likely go, because that's where you get the highest, the best, and all that.
Our ordinances allow for certain locations, and currently, Tim, correct me if I'm wrong, basically the 3 locations that are available would be Harmon Field, Country Club, and town-owned properties.
Correct.
So it could theoretically be any town-owned property where it would work, but obviously the water plant is the highest, easy to get to location.
But it has to be public land that, that can't strike a deal with a private.
No,
Absolutely not.
Okay.
And to my knowledge, folks, as I said, I've asked a lot of questions, we've asked a lot of questions. The idea was to keep it below 200 feet so that there is absolutely no lights, to put it on town property somewhere near the water plant. And most people don't know that we had one there for 8 or 10 years, but it's been removed. But most people never knew it was there. They paid us to put it there. They paid us a month for I don't know how many years, and then they took it down. They never rented it to anybody.
Was it a 200-foot tower at the time?
No, it was less than that, but I don't remember how much, honestly.
Well, does it have to be 200 feet? Could it be 100 feet?
No. The company that was asked, what do you have to make this work and make it viable for crime? Under 200 feet and over whatever. So I think the magic number that we have is probably 195. I know there are people who won't like that. There are also people who don't like not getting phone service. So we may have to take, if we do this, we may have to take, whatever the word is, I don't think you'll see it, because I never saw the other one. It was 100 feet or more, and it was taller than the trees there. And I will not tell you anything, folks. This will be taller than the trees. I don't think there's any question about that. But if you want service, that's part of it.
so the reason that they're looking at the 190-foot range is originally when we spoke, we gave them a number of locations. They tried Country Club. Country Club would not work. They tried a bunch of places. They wanted Harmon Field. We had some reservations about that, I'll say. But at the end of the day, there was a location that they thought they could get away with a 100-foot tower. That location was directly on a road and directly in line of sight for a lot of people coming down particular roads. The location that we have where it previously was is down in the hole. It's not at the water plant. It's actually 80, 90 feet below the water plant. Maybe not that much, but it's below the water plant where the pond is. It's below the pond. So it'd be under 200 feet, whatever it was, from down there.
And the access road would probably come from Melrose Extension.
Well, wait a minute.
It would be- Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
If the stem is speaking, that's fine. It's probably, somebody else had a hand there. I can figure out where we're
That was
going.
all right.
Okay. You want to add something?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, and I guess the best access to that location would be from Melrose Extension and not going all the way up
Yeah,
Glengarnock.
that dirt road to town.
Yeah.
Take care of. And the gentleman in the back?
My name's Rick Lionel. I live actually just above the intersection of Carolina Drive and Hogback Mountain Drive and White Woods. My question is this, will the town or county, someone, be paid?
Yes.
So there is income? Can you do anything you want to with that money?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm just, a
And I'm
suggestion.
sorry, but you can't have it.
Well, if I thought I could, I would ask. You know, I walk my dog past there every weekend, we ride by there a lot. I think it'd be hard to build such a monstrosity as a cell phone tower that when somebody drives by, they would say, oh, look at that ugly tower. There's clearly a big industrial site that's going, now, not to criticize the people who maintain it, it's well maintained, it's neat, they cut the grass. But I'm wondering, could you take the income and maybe hide that industrial site a little bit with landscaping, so that somebody who's worried about the aesthetics of it, you would actually improve the whole property without any extra money?
To answer your question, and I don't have a vote on where that goes unless there's a tie, you're probably looking at between 500 and 1,000 a month at best. Upkeep for us, if you gotta mow something down there,
Yeah.
the road, we're gonna keep going. And that upkeep would be the same upkeep of cutting that road that we already used to get back into the water plant, am I not correct? So whatever went, that would serve for both. We have a number of places that we rent this or rent that, and we get a little money for, and it's put into the account. For years, I thought, why don't we take this and set it aside in an account, whatever name you wanna call it, Whoopie account, and do something for downtown crime that benefits all the citizens. There are times when you just don't get enough. Somebody goes, well, you get $30,000 a year in rent. How much is our payroll a month?
I think that's a great idea.
I agree with you.
It might be
You can
trade-off
dress
for
up that
those who
water
are
plant.
concerned about the aesthetics, because
Right.
clearly that's just a big industrial lot with ponds, storage tanks, and it is well maintained, but it's pumps, tanks, big concrete buildings.
It's not pretty.
Yeah.
No, and it's been there for I don't know how long, and it's never been pretty. The lady here,
Tracy Morris, Glengarnock Road. I'd be interested in knowing why you had reservations about Harmon Field, but no reservations about, the water plant. What makes Harmon Field sort of not viable in your mind and the water plant viable?
Honestly, it's a park. And I just know that the location we have at the water plant, there's no one that can be around it to destroy equipment, climb up it, mess with anything, as opposed to Harmon Field where 1,000 people are dead.
And so that actually leads to another question that I have, because when it's out in the open like that, it's probably less likely for someone to climb up it. And because that particular site is kind of hidden, what are you gonna do to prevent somebody that's gonna go up, like on a dare or whatever, go up and around that particular site?
They will be required to have fencing, they will be required to have some sort of security measure, obviously, for the tower. Obviously, once it goes in, we have the best police department in Western North Carolina, so I think we'll take care of it.
Is that a promise or a thought?
Yeah,
I mean,
I would
ma'am,
love
I'm gonna answer that question. There's no way anybody sitting here can promise you anything. I promise you that. Because
And okay, I heard you, and I would agree with you that there should be some reciprocity where if the tower is put at the water plant that's for the benefit of the entire town. Therefore, why wouldn't the income be for the benefit of those who are getting sort of I don't want to say eyesore, but for lack of a better word, why wouldn't they, why would everything benefit the entire downtown both the income as well as the increased service. And
From my perspective, again, as the mayor, if we put money downtown, we're able to get people here, they spend money, we get tax back, and we keep your taxes as low as possible.
let's not talk about taxes just yet, because Chris and I've had this discussion where we get nothing relative to our tax burden, so let's not go there. And you said that there would be 500 to 1,000, more or less, estimated income per month. But I thought you said that there would be an initial amount as well. Maybe I misunderstood.
Yeah, there's no initial amount.
Okay, I misunderstood then.
I
Okay.
wish there were.
And will there be any thought to making this tower, if it is put in, where it looks like it's brown, where it would be like the base of the tree? Or will it be sort of a metal monstrosity?
I don't know the answer to that, because she asked, didn't I come and see you today?
Yes, you did.
Okay, because,
But
I hadn't thought about that, honestly.
you and I had that discussion on the phone many months ago.
And that, is it something we can ask? Do they paint them to make it fit in? It's a question worth asking.
Well, there
It's
is.
a single pole, right?
Yes.
Like one single pole. Powerful.
It makes it a little
There
less.
there is different versions and ways in which they can mask it from being, gray. But when that happens, there is a cost increase because it's an engineering thing. When you start adding hundreds of pounds of metal to an already thin pole, it becomes an engineering issue. So they upcharge basically to fix it, because right now it's a 20-foot drop zone. So if that tower were to tip over, allegedly it doesn't go outside of 20 feet from the pole base.
So who is it an upcharge on for? If
Well, it's
Tryon wouldn't incur the cost, it
It's
would be
not-
the cost to
Trying to
them.
incur a cost, but we may not get as much per month.
Well, I think that's a fair enough trade-off,
Right.
but that's my opinion.
Yeah, and truthfully, we just don't know the answer to the numbers. But theoretically, if, say we were gonna get $750 a month, regular pole, if we were to say we demand this pole, the engineering costs go up, things have to change because, again, the 20-foot drop zone and everything else, we could end up getting 200 a month, which basically, we don't care about the money, because at the end of the day, we have people that can't get out. And if people can't get out, they can't call 911. I mean, that's what we're looking at. We don't necessarily, look at it from other aspects, but we do look at some of the things that affect how we provide services.
Wait a minute, somebody back here, who had the hand up, the lady or the gentleman?
My name is Vicki, and my husband Jim and I live in that woods. And we're in pretty close proximity to where this tower would go, that goes down the pond. And I'm gonna just read a letter that I had made out for you folks, and I have a little package to give you as well. So we live pretty close to that location. People talk about the aesthetics and they talk about the money, but what about the health of people? And we can't just be so short-sighted to think that it's all about just better service for people when our health is at risk, because this is gonna be a 5G, right? 5G tower?
We have no idea what kind of tower it would be.
Okay. Well, if there should be. Even So, anyway, this area over here is also a path of where severe storms have come through, like the tornado that came through Melrose Avenue 3 years ago. There are many houses close to this area, and this could pose a threat to the safety of the residents in their homes and be a fire hazard if the storm knocks the tower down. And this has happened in various places around the world. I've seen the studies, I've seen it online. And we're talking about a 190-foot tower, so this is pretty big. In July of last year, I sent a large package to you and your peoples, with a book in it, Arthur Furstenberg's, book, The Invisible Rainbow, about the history of electricity and how it has, affected people's health throughout history since the 1700s, and a whole bunch of information. And I would ask that you, share it with the other, town council members. So there have been over 200 scientists from all over the world expressing their concerns and showing scientific evidence that EMF radiation has negative health implications on humans as well as animals and insects. Right on top of the water treatment, I walk down there all the time with my dog. They have this wonderful little beehive that's up there, and there's all these little bees swarming around. And so somebody that works at the water treatment plant is raising bees. And bees have been known to be one problem with the EMFs, that this might be one reason for colony collapse, and where they can't find their way back to their hives. Okay? These negative effects are not always immediately apparent, and it's going to take several years for the accumulation of exposure to show up as disease or dysfunction in the body. I realize that people often want faster service, and I do not deny that in many places self-service is sketchy, including at our house. We will always have a landline. We know that they're safer. My husband worked for 37 years for a phone company. We will not afford this phone in our house. We have a cell phone that we keep off, and we keep it in the car, and we keep it in the Faraday cage. I mean, you might say that's extreme, but we understand the implications of wireless, and human beings were never exposed to this kind of thing until just recent years, in the last 20, 30 years. We really don't know. We really don't know what the long-term effect is. Okay? I believe a much safer avenue is to use fiber optics instead of 5G. The FCC has not updated any safety studies on wireless technology since 1996. Just recently, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit ruled that the FCC failed to provide a reasoned explanation for its determination that its current guidelines adequately protect against harmful effects of exposure to radio frequency radiation. So now the FCC has to go over 11,000 documents that have shown EMF harm to humans and insects, and they have to respond to that now, because they never updated anything since 1996. There are so many questions about safety that need to be answered, and the communications industry is only concerned about one thing: money in their pocket without regard to the health and safety of the people in their lives. It'd be too lengthy to list all the scientific studies that have been done so far. So on this sheet, which you're getting a copy, there are 2 websites where you can see a great number of them. And there's a Bio Initiative 2012 that we started, and it is all of these scientists from all around the world that have been calling for, safety studies and, all of this wireless technology that we've been using. And the problem is that we just get so addicted to this thing, it becomes second nature to us, and we don't even know what life is like without it, and we don't even think that we can have life without it. And the other one is environmentaltrust.org. I ask you to please take the time to review this information with your other board members and seriously consider the fiber optics or another safer option if available instead of the proposed cell tower. And the cell towers, if you're within a quarter mile of that, that's a real problem. If you are going to live within a quarter mile of that tower, you better really seriously think about moving. The health and environmental implications from the tower and smaller installations that requires its 5G may far outweigh the added monetary revenue the town would receive from such an agreement with one of the phone companies like Verizon or the FCC. And I have these for you. There's a little bit more information in here along with what I just read. Thank you. Thank you.
He had his hand up before yours.
Wow, this is a really simple question.
Name?
Kevin Parker, 65 Ocean Drive. Anywho, just was wondering what, as far as the different locations, prospective locations, is there determination on what the level of service and signal is and the scope and whatnot, that one would cover over another and that kind of stuff. Pretty simple.
I mean, from the discussions we've had, the location of the water plant is the best fit for overall service. One of the reasons Country Club was not really permissible was even though they could get the height, it's in a bowl. You know, when you're surrounded by, you know, Warrior Mountain, hogback, stuff like that. I mean, apparently, according to the engineers, they're claiming that Carolina Drive there at the water plant has the best shot to hit the areas that are hit the hardest with lack of cell service.
Okay, this lady,
Erin Miller, Winner's Circle Triumph. I want to actually talk about the health aspect of it as well. I've done a lot of research on cell tower 5G, 4G, 3G, it doesn't matter which G it is, and the health implications on the body. So right now, the FCC has their specifications that have 10 million microwatts per meter squared. What that means is a safe level, as defined by the people who wrote the 2012 report, the Bio Initiative, is safer level is 6 microwatts per meter squared. So at 3.4 microwatts per meter squared, sperm is impacted. That means you can't have kids. Now, in our area, I know our average age is 62, so it may not be applicable. However, you want to think about the impacts of a cell tower and its waves now coming to the school. You want to think about the impact of the people who are living close to the tower, and they will start to experience something called the rouleau effect, if they already don't, because of Wi-Fi. What that is that your body's blood normally looks like a beautiful round, it's a beautiful round cell, and your blood's important because why? It transports the energy from foods, and it transports the oxygen, and it allows you to think, it allows you to exercise, it allows you to walk. It's health. What happens when you are exposed to this is that your blood starts to stack one on top of the other, and it's called the rouleau effect. What the rouleau effect does is it makes you have headaches, depression, dizziness, can't think, can't do things. And if it's really bad, it starts to look like cauliflower. And your blood, when it's drawn, is thick. It's not, it's not fluid. So I think I'm for anything but the cell tower, because the cell tower is going to have long-term implications, not just you're going to add that there. Then someone's going to come along and say, let's add in some of the little mini 5G cell towers. And oh, by the way, your downtown just happens to be perfect for it. You can put one on each lamppost, now exposing everybody to this frequency. So I ask you, please investigate the health implications of a cell tower. And if we don't have to put one in, don't. Get a landline service, get fiber optics, whatever you need to do. But people who are talking about like the money we can use to fix up your town, you won't have people who will be happy to walk around the town because of the city. So that's what I'm.
this lady had her hand up again, and then you, and then back there.
Mine's gonna be really quick. You indicated that Verizon or whomever had done some studies as to the merits of the 3 locations. I would like to have that study shared with the potentially impacted people. So do I need to can I have that, or how do I request that? Do I need to file a Freedom of Information Act?
I don't have that.
Could you get that for me?
I can ask, they're a private company, so they may not be willing to give it up. I'd be glad to shoot them an email.
Okay, and if not, I can pursue other routes as well.
Okay.
Through FCC and Verizon and the Senate.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Well, I'm sorry, excuse me, didn't they communicate that to you?
Yeah, we've
Okay,
met.
so they communicated it to you, so you have the information. And they sent it to a public entity. You have the right to share things. You know.
They did not send me anything. We've communicated verbally on site. So, I mean, I have some things,
Okay.
but I don't
I'm
have
sorry.
engineering of that particular thing.
Fair enough, I'm sorry.
My name is Susan Lane and I live on Melrose Avenue. I would like to say that, I think I came here with the mindset that I'd finally get some kind of decent cell service. But I have in the past been concerned about the health aspect of it. And I do think that before any final decision is made, it would really be more than fair for there to actually be a pile of those reports, as you requested, available to anybody in town to read it and to revisit the issue, just to see the health effects of such a thing. I do have a landline. I have T-Mobile because Spectrum doesn't work well. We tried it for a long time, so I got T-Mobile with boosters, and both of them stink. There's just, the service is really bad. That's just part of what I'm trying on right now. But I would be very, very interested, before there's an agreement made, to see what fiber optics would look like. If that's a healthier alternative, and the results would be fairly similar, to me, it feels like, especially in light of one thing that you said, I'm 72, so I'm not planning on any pregnancy soon. But I do think that there's a young family right across the street from me. There's a lot of young people. And I feel like an area should be safe. We should exhaust other possibilities before we go for something that is as potentially as health. It's such a risk to people's health.
Yes, ma'am.
My name is PJ Thiessen. I live on First Street by the Pine Crest Inn. I moved here a little over a year ago, right, a week before the shutdown. And didn't get a chance at that time to get to know all the lovely people here. But I want to tell you, I've really enjoyed living here. And one of the perks that really appealed to me was that we were so far away from cell towers. And my cell phone would attribute to that how horrible it was. So I'm like, I know I'm safe. I finally had to, I went through all kinds of things trying to figure out what to do about my problem with my cell phone. And I met someone right here in town, and I'm not going to get into it. He's a technician, but he basically told me, forget Verizon. It's dominated by the equestrian center. You're not going to ever get good reception. Get AT&T. So I switched to AT&T, solved all my problems. But I did start thinking about people up on the mountain and what service they get. And I wondered, now hearing this, I hear that it's a problem. And my heart goes out to them. And I like the idea of something healthier, like the fiber optics and what was the other thing you said? I forgot. But just an alternative. Because, yeah, I too have known about I lived in Norfolk, I'm surrounded by the naval base, the largest one, and boy, that affected my sleeping. I mean, and I read up on it. So I was happy when after my mother passed away, that I could sell her house and move somewhere. And I moved in with a friend of mine who I was in her wedding 40 years ago. And her husband just died. So we are now friends sharing a place. And I thought, what a wonderful town this is of Tryon. And all the perks of being out in nature and stuff. And I certainly don't want to bring Norfolk back into Tryon after moving all the way out here. Certainly we can find something healthier.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and if I misunderstood, my apologies, but I think I understood you to say that this entire initiative was brought about because you personally were impacted by lack of cell service.
I
And
have
Robert-
dozens of people who talk to me.
Hundreds.
It was not just
I
because I
have
did.
got business on the sidewalk, because I can't get it that good in my office, right across from the clock tower.
And I'll verify that because she walks around in front of the coffee house. And she and Jeannie looking for something and whatever, and that's your business.
Okay.
Nancy,
Nancy?
yeah, Nancy Holmes, I live on Glen Garden. In addition to getting the information about the reasons why those other locations were considered, undesirable, I would also like to know, I'm sure you would be able to find out this, Alan and the rest of you. I'd like to know why the tower on Glen Garden was taken down. I remember it very well. It was actually, did look kind of like a tree. I mean, I think it's as close as they were coming in those days. It kind of had a rough concrete and it was painted a nice color of brown.
To answer that
So
question, what I was generally
why are we
told
putting another one there?
is someone built a speculative tower to rent and nobody ever rented.
No one ever, oh, so
Nobody ever rented anything on
It was
that.
not
There was
working
never
on that.
anything on that tower.
it wasn't working, in other words.
No, the tower worked, but there was nobody to put their equipment on it.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was because they were charging too much, they didn't like because of the high line, I don't know. But it was never used to actually use for a cell tower. It was just put there and then removed. Which didn't make any sense to me either.
This tower that you're talking about would not, it's not so tall, but it would need lights, right?
No, we stayed under that.
And there's no problems with the decibel level.
I don't think it'd be a decimal level. Okay, the lady behind you.
Hi, I'm Jenny Plume. I live on Hogback Mountain Road. My question is, what is the range of the proposed cell service? And I live pretty far up Hogback Mountain Road, not as high as the condos up there. But I have clear sight of the radio tower over, that used to be, well, I don't know if it's still used for anything. And at the tower on Zion Mountain, I can't get cell service. I have to stand in certain parts of my house, going around like this, trying to get service. So if we were to have a cell tower, what is the range? Because I'm surrounded by trees, I'm much higher than the water plant. And
There's no way we can answer that question. That was a question that would have to be answered. The company could tell you that. And I'm with you. I get cell service at my breakfast room with my cell phone sitting in my window, and I'm talking to it. That's where I get good service. At my house. Works everywhere else. Yes.
Danny LaValle, Lynn Court Drive. So I actually was liking the idea of investigating AT&T a little bit further, because, I mean, does anybody have an actual map or a footprint of their coverage? Because if most of the town is actually covered by AT&T, I'd be happy to switch. That could really be the answer right there. I mean, why do we have to be, have allegiance with Verizon? And I'm a Verizon customer, I have the same problem that we all do, right? So could we not just switch to AT&T? I'd also like to see a little bit more on the research on the health, because, I mean, that is, of course, a valid concern, but it needs to be a lot deeper. And just 200 scientists from around the world isn't quite deep enough. I want to see more hardcore data on that. So if anybody has a footprint on the AT&T and it looks convincing, I consider that to be fairly compelling.
Thank you.
One quick comment. I live on Melrose Avenue. I have Verizon. I have service 30% of the time, maybe, and I also have a store downtown and no service there particularly. My sister, who has been staying with me, has AT&T and her phone works just fine at my house and at the store. So the footprint extends from Lynn Court to middle of Melrose Avenue. I know that much, but much more reliable.
Okay. And let me tell you something, folks, we're gonna take about 4 or 5 more minutes. Okay, you, and then here, and then here.
I can tell you, I tried when I first moved here, I tried to get AT&T, and they told me that they do not service where I live on Hogback, and they had no plans to extend their service. I've tried a bunch of other carriers, and actually now I'm using Credo, because that was the only one that I could get any service with.
My name's David Walton, I live on Laurel Avenue, right where Hogback ends. And when we first moved here 10 years ago, we used T-Mobile and their service was terrible. They said, switch to the AT&T tower, and they did that with some code, and then it was just as bad. And then we switched to US Cellular, they're from Hendersonville, and we get pretty good service everywhere, but they could be out using AT&T because people subcontract towers and services and then brand them. So I don't know, but I also am gonna just say I'm okay with the location of the tower at the lake, being close to me, and I don't think you're talking about large wave bands of naval power energy, but I don't think close exposure of 5G, 4G, 3G is good for anybody from a tower, but there's science for that. I don't know. That's all I can consider. Maybe one more thing, could we do a creative tower in the Harmon Field and people climb on it, but then they're too close to the tower for safety's sake. So anyway.
Now, look, I'm gonna make a comment about that, about towers. We have towers at Cook County High School, they're 100 and some feet tall, and have football lights on them. And nobody will climb those towers, right? It's like 18 feet off the ground before you get to the first one. My assistant coach goes down one day, and there's a kid from another team, the 3 of them got together, set a vehicle beside it, and one was 80 feet or so up that tower, and nobody knew why he was there. So wherever it is, look, I'm sorry, just keep being stupid.
That's right.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Folks,
so-
remember, you got 2 more minutes.
Okay, so I just want to address the health that you talked about, the deep dive and a place that you can look. In the court case that was mentioned where the FCC, basically, there was a case against the FCC saying that their guidelines were not adequate. There were 11,000 pages of evidence filed in that case indicating the health concerns and the health problems with the microwave capabilities, whether it's from a tower or from your Wi-Fi in your home. So that's a place where you can look should you wish.
Okay, there was one more. The gentleman behind you.
Oh, yes, my name's Brad Buchanan. I live right across the street from the water treatment plant, the water pumping station, I guess it is, on Carolina Drive. I'm above the plant. So I'm very concerned about the potential for an eyesore and also having all that radiation coming directly into my window. I'm mere 300 or 400 yards away. That does not appeal to me at all.
Okay, Susan, last one.
Since I've heard enough about AT&T and the possibility of fiber optics, is there a possibility that maybe you or Chris, Commissioner, somebody could approach AT&T and say, look, we've got a whole town here. If anybody, I mean, I'd sign up for a safer option and have a group, just not with one person, but you've got a whole town that has a kind of a unique problem. And we would be interested in you guys helping us.
I don't have an answer for that question.
But it's something to pose, that's what I'm saying.
There's something that people, you citizens can get organized and go out, and I promise you get as much or more done than you can.
Fiber, I don't think it's an option to replace this.
Oh, fiber is not an option, they're still putting stuff in the ground that's gonna be used.
Or help the cell phone.
So,
Yeah.
okay, folks,
Different technologies.
obviously, we're gonna have to have some more talk about this. I'm gonna close this session. Those of you who wish to stay for the rest of it, please do. If you feel like you need to go, please go. But thank you for coming out for your government.
Thank you for holding the open
And
session.
go vote on, what is this? Second. First, Tim.
Come on, stir me Move on. Can we move?
Okay, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
Continue. Since we're out of the public hearing, we still need to adopt these changes. And then you will comment from the attorney or the zoning and planning director.
It's just a text amendment, the motion.
Okay, Ms. Nutt.
The motion would be, to adopt this ordinance.
Chair, will entertain a motion to adopt the ordinance as presented by the attorney and the zoning and planning director that meets the requirements of a new state. Is that not what it does?
Does all that. yes.
Clarifies and meets the new requirements. of the
And the
state.
planning board recommended for the.
Okay. All in favor, aye? All opposed likewise, motion carries. Zach, it was 4, we have someone stepped out, doesn't that count as a yes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Come on, Chris.
Okay.
Voted yes.
Item 6B. We adopted the presentation. On item 6B, Zach, Susan will be back in just a second.
Yeah, Susan's probably getting the Bible for those who wish to use it. Or in- You got it there.
Okay. Now you will go ahead and motion for the presentation for the new ordinances and motion carries. He made a motion. There are 3 here to carry. Chris was standing in the hall. His council is a positive also. Okay. Zach, 6B, Historic Preservation Commission.
Yes, sir. So we have not presented the changes yet, but we have we have the Historic Preservation Committee update and swearing in. Robert Lang is here, so we've got.
Yeah, the last meeting, we presented a new ordinance, which I guess was going to be voted on at this meeting, is that correct?
No, this is the swearing in.
Oh, but
It'll probably be next month, but the planning board didn't take that.
I didn't receive.
Yeah, but it looks good though. What you-
So, yeah, basically, there's very little we can do until we're sworn in, so, other than setting a general meeting to organize ourselves. If you guys will swear us in, we'll go forth and do the things.
Who always?
Okay, Julie Calhoun, Nancy Gray, David Hayden, this guy.
Whatever that is.
This-
Mud.
This guy,
Mud.
there we go. I gotta get him to sign mine.
You ain't right. I swear, I'm a newspaper.
Just draw a picture on it.
I'm fine. I'm going down.
William,
Joey Calvin. Nancy Billy. Dave Wells. And
What's his name?
Queen Tracy, Tracy's boy.
This is post on.
Do we all have to touch it?
And, motion. Okay. And you want to say your name?
Nancy Gray, Calvin.
Do solemnly swear or affirm
solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution and laws of North Carolina,
and the Constitution and laws of North Carolina,
not inconsistent therewith,
Not inconsistent therewith.
and that I will faithfully perform the duties
and I will faithfully perform the duties
of the office of
the office of
the Historic Preservation Commission,
Historic Preservation Commission,
on which I am about to enter, according to my best ability, skill, and ability, so help me God.
That's my ability, so help me God.
You didn't know you were gonna get into that.
Thank you.
Yeah, we will have our meeting that officially and bylaws updated, et cetera, and the town to get us the new ordinance. That's assuming that probably passed. And thank you for supporting this. It's really, really important. Aesthetically, economically, and spiritually.
I didn't receive anything to review. I've been meaning to contact Robert, but they'll be on the next one. We'll absolutely get them at the next meeting.
Yeah, this was, in what, we talked about that.
Okay, well,
Yeah, my understanding was it was gonna be done and then it'll be ready to.
okay, well, we're just kind of
Thank you all.
postponing a month. We'll get
Thank
it done.
Thank you much.
That's all of you.
Alright, so,
Bye-bye.
attached we have the lead map GIS lease, notice to advertise the resolution authorizing lease for the missing 40 property. As an update, what we talked about earlier, if you wish to entertain a lease for this property, we must advertise. The only thing you would approve tonight would be that we would advertise that we are offering to go into a lease with the particular, Saluda Land Conservancy that has it.
I'll make a motion.
Have a motion, all in favor, aye. All opposed, likewise, motion carries. Item 8.
A little free art library discussion.
Me. My name is Susanna Hogan. I've never been to a try-on commissioners, home commissioners meeting before. I've only been to County. These are much more fun.
Don't get too excited.
I was reading, I'm gonna take this off because I'm making 60 away. I was reading a Smithsonian magazine one day during the pandemic, and one of the things I've noticed around Tryon lately, a lot of the little free libraries that are everywhere. There's one right there. And this article in Smithsonian magazine was about a little free art gallery in Washington State. And there's been a few more that have cropped up across the country. I sent the overview of this presentation to you guys in your email, and it's right there just talking about why this would be a positive thing for Tryon. And if you look on the next page, are the goals and what I'm asking you guys for. I'm not asking for any money, which is rare, I would think. What I'm asking for is a place to put it and promotion of it when it gets built. We've had the lumber donated and we're looking for a volunteer to build it for us. Once I get approval to go ahead and work on this from you guys, I'm going to go to the art galleries in town and talk to them and get them on board. I have several friends who are willing to donate pieces to it. It would be about the size of the little free libraries. It would hold 10 to 15 small miniature works of art, visual art, of all different media. People, just like with the libraries, people would take a piece and leave a piece, and hopefully it will become self-sustaining after a while. I did list some challenges and possible solutions in your handout that you can look through there. And then the next thing on the list are a timeline of when we would like to get this done, and have an opening next spring, just in time for the spring and summer tourism to come to town. I would have a committee of people who would be sort of like curators and would pay attention to what was in it, how it looked, clear away any debris or trash that people may have been put in it, and generally be a committee to work on that. There's a list in here with photographs of suggested locations for it. Of course, that's open to discussion. And then the last little section of pages are suggested plans, building plans, materials list. Any questions? Thank you.
I began as an artist.
Right.
And this is just a latter day iteration of what we do.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah, I think you'd have to support with all of them.
Okay,
I've been in these houses, and I know how much artwork they have.
Yeah.
And so we all appreciate it very much.
Okay, so I will approach the galleries and continue to get support for this, and I will be in touch with you guys about a location, and we can go from there and have any further discussion.
Yeah, I was intrigued by the first email you gave me, and I sent it on, giving you a page above. And the little free art that I understand, is for people to look at, or can you go pick up
You
a
can
piece of
take
art?
it.
You can take the piece of art.
In fact, I had to decide whether it was gonna be a gallery or a museum. And galleries, the artwork is for sale. This isn't really for sale, but the idea is to take one, just like with the libraries, take one and leave one. Any other questions?
Because I'm one of those houses who visits. Thank you.
All right. That's so far, yeah. We'll see how this one goes. I know we have a bunch of libraries, but we may only support one gallery. I don't know. Anybody else? All right, so I have your rubber stamp to go ahead. Awesome, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Item 10, Zach, once you get the BSA.
So in doing the 160D survey, Tim had to come up with some survey questions. He worked with Isothermal for Foothills Regional. But basically, these will be posted online. It's now various forms. And really, we're just asking for any input you have on this before it goes live.
Yeah, this is not a voting item, so if you have any suggestions, any questions you might want to add to it, or modify, we are trying to get it out in the next day or two, and I'm thinking Friday, since it's fourth Friday, I can get out there with some clipboards and maybe approach some people and see if they want to fill it out, so that might be a good opportunity to capture some data. So if you have any questions you think of in the next day or two, and you want to shoot them to me in an email, I'll look at them.
Is this the same thing you did last year, Shannon?
No, this is for the comprehensive plan, land use kind of thing. I don't think we did something, did we do something like this?
That's the ordinance, I think the title might be confusing, 160D.
Oh, yeah.
This is GS 160D that requires to do the overall of the ordinances, the zoning ordinances. Also requires on all towns, by June 30th or July 1st of next year, to have in place a current comprehensive plan, a long-range plan, a land use plan, they're called different things, but it's a long-range document of how you see the town developing into the future, like what's best for more residential or multifamily, or what would be a good place to see some industry, or whatever, it's that kind of thing. And then in the future, as you make zoning decisions, rezoning decisions, you have to tie it back to your plan. It has no regulatory authority, but it's a document that should guide your decisions, at least in making future zoning decisions about the ways different areas of town should be zoned, what category. It's required, if you want to keep having zoning at all, you gotta have one of these plans in place next July 1st, or you're out of the zoning meeting.
This was proposed from the state.
It was adopted couple of years ago now, but they gave towns more time, towns and counties, more time.
I'm being a smart aleck here, but
Yeah,
that's the same people that wanted to control which kind of bill was to be inside our corporate limits.
Same thing,
Same people that told us
yeah.
those trees we couldn't cut. I'm suspect of it. I know we have to do it, but I'm still suspect of it.
I guess this is a way to get public input on how individuals see the town developing.
Correct.
These things have to be updated every now and then, but usually they're good
The
for
next
20 years.
question, is this just within the corporate limits or also the ETJ?
Both.
Yeah, it's ETJ, since zoning covers both areas, that's what we have to apply.
All right. Item 11.
Minimum housing update.
Yeah, minimum house. Real quick, I do want to say the floodplain audit we had last month went well. No issues there. Good to go. Okay, 45 Kennedy Lane, the hearing is scheduled for November 3rd. Obviously, it's not repairable for the cost constraints we put on those, so, but I do have to wait a minimum of 45 days, so by the end of the year, that should be cleaned up. I'll start getting estimates on that. Broadway, I spoke to the buyer of Broadway. They're waiting for a completely signed contract, come back to them, then it will be done, and then they do know, I spoke to them that they have to get that rehab, so that should be, as soon as he gets the contract, he should be getting going, should be starting on his renovations, or at least getting a plan together.
Thank you. Item 11. TDPA.
You all have my usual report that I prepared for you about my activities that I work on throughout the month for our Central Point approach. One of the big things that we are working on, of course, is the joint branding effort that we've been working on with town and tourism. So with that, I would love to introduce Sean. Sean is here from Arnett Muldrow, and he's going to speak to you all a little bit and give you an update on that. And any other questions you have, just reach out to me.
Thank you. Thought I was a lot more popular than I am, but everybody is here to talk about cell towers, not branding. But thank you for having me here tonight, Mayor and Council. Yeah, just want to give a little bit of update. We don't have anything to unveil just yet. The steering committee has seen some things. The mayor even saw some thoughts we had on updating kind of seal that I'll talk about in a minute. But just wanted to kind of talk about the process and give you an update about where we are. There was a survey that was sent out to the community between August and September, and we had nearly 500 responses to that survey. So for a community the size of Tryon, that's a tremendous response to the survey. Things were overwhelmingly positive in there. It just had a lot of character questions about the community. Hopefully a lot of people in here participated in that survey. And it really just helped us kind of get a good understanding the community before we got in and started talking to all of the people in the community. That being said, what we did was we worked with Zach and Paige to create a number of themed roundtables in the community that has included economic development, town leadership. We had a meeting at Polk County High School that went really well. I wasn't able to attend that one, but Paige and Aaron went out there. The students were very positive, which is always a very good sign for a community. Often, whenever we're working in communities, students are the first ones to tell you they're just ready to get out of town. But the students really love this area and this region, and they really have a good quality of life that they enjoy. We also discussed event planners, neighborhoods we represented. That was a fairly entertaining, lively discussion. Then we had our public meeting, which we had a good turnout and a lot more good input in there. I don't know what the numbers compare to tonight, but about pretty close to that. And then we had a merchants meeting that Wednesday morning as well. We had a number of business owners come in and offer their insights into what makes Tryon successful for them and ways we can improve. And so out of that, we started to kind of understand what the values are of Tryon. And we learned about the natural landscape, the arts and craft heritage, all the fine arts that we have here in the community, from performing arts to visual arts, to musical arts and heritage as well. We also have the equestrian community, which plays a large role in Tryon's identity and support of the businesses here, events. The people, just the community itself, people here are overwhelmingly positive. They truly care about one another. I think as we witnessed tonight, people are really interested in more than just the bottom line here. They're really looking for the health and betterment of their fellow citizens, which leads into the character of the community. There's a lot of quirkiness and whimsy here, and even the Tryon name as we're looking at branding. One of the issues that came up a lot was the Tryon Equestrian Center, the International Equestrian Center, and understanding what roles we each play in this region and the identity that each has, and how we can market the community and not look at this relationship as anything adversarial, but just trying to focus on our assets and positive things that we have here in Tryon, and let the Equestrian Center do the same thing they're doing, and hopefully we'll just raise all the boats. So that's part of the external focus that we've got as far as the outside messaging goes about what Tryon has to offer, but also internally looking at community pride and looking at those things that people are moving here for, what people are staying here for, and what other people might potentially be coming here for. So again, that just kind of, with the brand, we distilled all that down into basically about 5 or 6 real themes that we're looking at: nature, looking at arts and crafts and music, looking at the equestrian heritage, the history of the community, and just the people themselves. And so would you like me to read the brand statement to give them a little taste of the narrative?
Yeah, if you don't mind, just quickly, I want you guys to hear this. I think it captures a lot of what they've been able to do so far.
Just wanted to ask, because I know we've been hearing a lot of talking tonight, this is the brand statement. This is the distillation of all of the input we've heard. Hopefully, if you attended the meetings, you'll hear some of the words, some of the phrases, some of the ideas and references that we heard last week reflected in this. So let me put on my radio voice a little bit here. We are Tryon. You may think you know us, but you don't. We aren't just another mountain town. We aren't highbrow. We aren't just a horse community. Above all, we are like no other place you've ever been or lived, and you have to experience us to appreciate us. In fact, we learn something new about ourselves every day and want to share Tryon's story with you. Tryon was founded as a retreat where the foothills and the favorable climate drew people from all over the world and wanted a place to unpack and unwind, a town to escape the troubles of the world, where you can sit back, relax, and enjoy. Tryon attracts people who live differently, and all who have been here have brought the best of themselves. Tryon has had renowned authors, musicians, actors, and leaders all drawn to the community because of its sophisticated yet humble nature. Each of them has left their imprint on this most unique community. We are a quaint small town, but have an abundance of riches more common in cosmopolitan places. Our fine arts are second to none, from the live performances and visual arts at the Fine Arts Center to the movies screened at our very own International Film Festival. We are horse country, where we've trained Triple Crown winners, Olympic athletes, and world-class competitions at our International Equestrian Center. The landscape around us is dotted with rolling pastures, stables, and farms, as well as unrivaled natural experiences, waterfalls, and trails. All of this comes together in our vibrant downtown, filled with great food, galleries, theaters, and activity. We are a place of makers and creators, where 9 out of 10 of our people do something with their hands, whether wood carving, painting, sculpting, forging, or throwing clay on the wheel. Tryon inspires creativity, and creativity is ingrained in our ethos. In fact, Tryon attracts craftspeople from around the globe to learn from us how to get better with their hands and perfect their own craft. It begins at our historic arts and crafts schools, but this creativity can also be seen in our architecture, our galleries, our music, and our people. Often quirky, sometimes whimsical, but always magical. While all this makes us truly unique, perhaps our best asset is our people. We live in Melrose and Eastside, hunting country and Milltown. While we come from a variety of places and backgrounds, the one unifier is our love of place, love of community, and love of each other. Our population hasn't grown a lot over the years, but we are constantly regenerating ourselves with new ideas and energy. While our people may change, our values have stayed true to those on which we were founded. It doesn't matter if you've grown up here and moved on, raised your family here, or come to Tryon to retire. All of us look to Tryon years as the best years of our life. We are Tryon, the best life in stride.
I just think I know it's long, but if you hear that, I just think they captured, which is a hard thing to do, so much of what makes us special here. So thank you for sharing that.
Can you get that down to a 15-second commercial?
I've been known to speak very fast in public, so I think I could do it, yeah. If there's more people back here, I definitely would have made it a little quicker. But well, that is the best life in stride. That is the 5 words. So that, and so we looked at a lot of ideas, we had a lot of discussions, and we really wanted to take that energy we feel here of people living their best life, but also that little subtle stride of people, living at their own pace, and being able to make that subtle connection to the equestrian history and heritage here as well, taking everything in stride and, kind of doing what needs to be done. But, people here really have a good independence about them. And I think as we develop this, one of the interesting things that came out of this, I've been with Arnett Monroe now for 7 years, and I've traveled all over the country and Central America doing this work. The concept that we've put in front of the steering committee is very unique for us in that we didn't feel like we could come up with one simple logo that told all of Tryon's story. It had a million things in there. And so we've come up with a unique approach to where we're going to give a number of icons that represent these very important components of the community that make up the tapestry of this community that can be used at different times to imbue a different meaning to whether it's events or promotions or seasons. And so I'm really looking forward to everybody getting to see it once we have gone through the next couple of weeks of feedback with the steering committee and a couple of weeks to process all of that feedback and produce all of the output. But really hoping to potentially be able to roll it out for around the holidays.
Hopefully it's a Christmas stroll. So thank you so much, Sean.
Thank you.
If I could, from the unofficial input from the tourism board and on the steering committee that's working with PDA in the town,
I'd say, first of all, Paige has done an outstanding job stepping up to the plate, getting us organized, and making this happen in a very efficient manner. And then Arnett and Monroe they have just been first class in terms of working with and you know, working with us and understanding what the core issues are and trying to distill the very complex nature of Tryon. I mean, so that is a long statement, but there's a lot of complexities here, and they continue to distill it down, and I'm really pleased.
Thank you, Rob.
Just real quick, if I could. Last Wednesday's breakfast meeting was awesome. We had a crew of people there, you guys were there, and that kind of stuff, and it was kind of a unfiltered communication about stuff, because you kind of get a little clinical, I think, when you're in certain environments. It was really good to hear that, and it's like, I'm glad it was overly complex, because what I took away from last Wednesday was that there's not, I mean, it's so difficult to explain in 5 words or 10 words, but you have to be concise to explain this place. I mean, it's virtually impossible, but no, I'm very impressed with what you guys have done prior to, I was here last Wednesday, and so, thumbs up and appreciate it.
Thank you. Yeah, as laid out in that statement, you know, we're trying to convey to people that you really have to experience Tryon before you really get it. It's really hard to just use words or pictures. Thank you.
Zach, item 13.
So yeah, I do want to say that on that, the drill's been great work, and I think you guys are gonna, you know, really enjoy the components of what they bring, so I'm excited about that. I'll keep it short. The main things that I really need to bring up, we did go through the LGC meeting with the loan to fix the bridge issue. That's the solder funding. The mayor and I were on that Zoom call. 1.18 million. I did get a letter that has been officially approved. Then another million was to be forgiven. We did do the financial accountability agreement paperwork this month. We'll do another one in December. We will have a tabletop exercise with South Carolina DHEC for the dam. So there'll be anywhere from 20 to 40 people out here. So we'll have to see how all that goes, but we will let you guys know so that you can be involved. I am working with the clock tower stuff. I just want to say real quick, the fire department has done a really good job. They did save a woman from drowning out in the valley. It's pretty intense stuff to hear about. They did a great job. They're also helping the police department handle the school traffic, so I do appreciate that because it's made things a lot easier around town. They'll be bringing details of the truck that they would like to get that they've presented to you before. Jeff can talk about this if he wants, but the flock cameras helped them identify a suspect and breaking and entering. They had charges in under 5 hours because of that camera. So that's a really big deal. Randall Hodges completed the law enforcement executive program at NC State. So we're proud of him. Basically, Public Works, they've been working their tails off. I haven't really got to speak so much because they've been trying to really catch up. They did work some overtime trying to make sure the town was looking good for Film Fest, and you know, you work in one area, you get behind in another, but we do appreciate all their work. So I don't really have too many updates. Pages stuff covers a lot of stuff, and you know, we got grandfather this weekend, so if you guys need anything or have anything from me, start taking notes.
And I went by and spoke with that farmer and shook his hand and said, thank you. So that's what I like about this town, is those kind of people. Council mayor tonight, Bill England, Quiz, Bill Cornwall, Sherelle, and me.
I'd just like to thank the staff and the citizens that come out. If you like what you say or not like what you say, but we'd like to see you come out. We'd like to input. Appreciate it. I'd like to invite those that want to come tomorrow morning. They're having a memorial service at Harmon Field at 2 o'clock in Hopkins Saturday. And remind people, even though we have no formal opposition, voting day is November 7th. Come out and vote.
Saturday at 2.
Saturday at 2.
Saturday. You want us to put that on next one?
Yeah.
That'd be nice.
That would be great. If all gathered, that'd be a 10. That's it.
Chris?
Very briefly, I'd like to thank all of the citizens who came out. I love to see this group. Oh, every time. And always, thank you for our staff.
One thanks to staff for everything. Bill and I got a ride today up to the town lake and got to see some 100-year-old water pipe system that's interesting, but, yeah, these guys.
Very impressive.
Yeah, at times they're working on a gust. Yeah. So, but anyway, thanks to staff, and that's it.
To everyone that's been in this room, that is in this room, to everyone that's in the adjoining room, thank you all. Thank you, Mr. I can probably hear now, but thank you.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you, town. Thank you for everyone else. Thanks for everything that you can do.
I got one citizen comment I gotta read that was submitted.
When he's done with his mayor report, Randall will fill up.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I jumped in.
Those types of things. Do you have a question?
Yeah, he was going to say something, but you go do your marriage report first, and then you'll, have citizens comment. Randall, you're talking about, right?
I can wait out there.
Okay. Okay, all I'm gonna say is nearly perfect, always trying. Now, for citizen comments, Randall, do you have something?
Yeah, just one quick simple one. If you have a police officer in times, I like it when there's like a open street light, not blind park, it's kind of goes on and off because, it's been dead for a couple of weeks, and then a couple of days ago I saw it on, and now it's off again permanently.
That's Brown Park.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, this is a letter from Jane Herman. Dear commissioners and neighbors, like most of us, I often find myself frustrated with the poor cell phone service in the Tryon area. However, I think Verizon's proposed phone tower causes grave concerns for our community. Most importantly for me are the health issues associated with the cell phone towers. Dr. Deirdre Davis of Stanford University, among others, has spent the past 10+ years researching the effects of the electromagnetic frequency radiation emitted by cell towers. She has found a direct causality between EMF from cell towers and an increase in the incidence in atrial fibrillation, which is a malfunction of the heart. In addition, her research has uncovered links between an increased incidence of certain kinds of cancer and EMF radiation from cell phone signals. Other symptoms reported by the WHO are fatigue, concentration difficulties, dizziness, nausea, and digestive disturbances. Most disturbing is the fact that so far nothing has been discovered that can block the radiation from 5G. I've also read several reports from the WHO, WRTV in Indianapolis, and an Australian government site, to name a few, regarding the noise emitted from cell phone towers. It has been described as something that is felt rather than heard and cannot be blocked, masked, or drowned out. This disturbs sleep patterns and general well-being. The question we must ask and answer is, are these health issues worth the convenience of better cell phone service, especially if the service is 5G, which means upgraded phones that are 5G ready? Lastly, there's the concern of the visual eyesore that will be visible throughout a great part of the community. Tryon is a beautiful place. Do we really want a large, ugly structure right dab smack in the middle of it? I, for one, would prefer lousy cell phone service and am adamantly against the erection of a cell phone tower near the water treatment plant. Thank you, Jane Herman.
Thank you. Yeah, citizens' comments. That was a citizen comment. Opposed? Not, Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn. All in favor, aye. Opposed likewise. Motion carries. We're adjourned, ladies and gentlemen.
Hey, that's true. I have to bring one of these.